Okay. Our next topic, which will be the Holt's linear trend model. When we say Holt's linear trend model, that is an extension of simple exponential smoothing that accommodates a trend in the data, such as data that shows an upward or downward direction over time. This model forecasts future values by smoothing the time series level, the base value and trend, the rate of change, also known as the double exponential smoothing. So in this case, class, this is dealing with a trend already. Since earlier in the simple exponential smoothing, that is dealing without the trend or without seasonality, but right now, if you are dealing with only trend, you can somewhat refer to the Holt's linear, and the results for this is somewhat always linear accordingly. Now then, we will be going to deal with the components for this because there is a components which will be the level, the trend, and the forecast. So the level will represent the estimated value on the series at time t, and trend represent the slope of the series at time t, and the forecast represent the forecast value h periods into the future. By the way, you cannot be able to use, or I mean, check the future data or the forecasted data if you cannot check the current level, the current trend. You have to do it step by step in order for you to achieve into the latter part. That is really, this is so annoying to calculate in a step-by-step manner. However, you should calculate that in a step-by-step manner. If you will be having such mistake in the middle part, then at the latter part, it will be a mistake as well. Now, you're using this formula for the level, which is the L of t having the alpha parameter times to the current value, which is the x of t plus 1 minus a, then times lt minus 1 plus t minus 1, where alpha is the smoothing constant for the level between 0 and 1. X of t is the actual value at time t, and L of t minus 1 is the level at the previous time step. And t minus 1 is the trend as the previous time step, and L of t is smooth level at time t. Now, for the trend, this will be the beta, representing the beta, which L of t, the beta times L of t minus LT minus 1, the previous, plus 1 minus a beta times t minus 1. Now, T is the trend estimate at time t, then beta trend smoothing constant between 0 and 1 still, and LT minus 1 is the previous level, and T minus 1 is the previous trend, and LT is the current level. Now, for the forecast, this will be the formula that we're using, which is equals to LT plus H times T. We'll begin to illustrate how does it work in the future as well, in the separate video. Now, TT is trend estimated time t, and LT is the current level or the trend at time t, and H is the number of period into the future you wanted to forecast, and FTH is forecast for H period ahead. Now, this is basically how does it work. Now, everything here then. All right. So this one here, the steps that we are dealing is the initialization, applying the level and trend equation, forecast future period, and repeat the process for each new period. So for the initialization, you have to initialize the level. For the first period, like January 1 or the starting data point is simply set to the actual value for the period, wherein Y1 or L1 is equals to Y1, where Y1 is the actual value of the first data points that you do have. And for initializing the trend, that is calculated as the difference between the first two data points, like the rate of change between January and 2. So if you do have the data from January 2, you have to deduct that to January 1, and that will be the initialized trend of the T1, where Y1 and Y2 are the actual data or values for the first two period. And then apply the level and trend equation for each period after the first. Apply the formula to update the level and trend. If you were able to initialize, you can definitely get already level and trend accordingly. You can smooth out the data already and then forecast the future in the, as well. Forecast future period, once you have the updated level and trend, the forecast for any future period, A plus H is calculated using the formula. That's how it worked then. And for this one right now, repeat the process for each new period. Calculate the level and trend using the formula above for each new period, and the model is updated with the most recent observation as new data becomes available. Forecast the future period based on the updated level and trend. That's how it worked then. And for this one, we have a separate example for that, and I will begin to deal with in the another video so that it will be clear, because I know that it is somewhat vague and I will begin to deal with that in a separate video. Thank you so much, Dan.